Good evening, everyone. I am Madid Arzi, a PhD student in archaeological science, and I'm pleased to warmly welcome you to this University of Melbourne Iranian Society webinar. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that those of us in Australia are meeting on the unceded lands of various Indigenous people. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where I currently live and work, the Wurundjeri people, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. It's a pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dr. Francois Doucet. We are privileged to have him as our esteemed presenter for this webinar. Francois is a European archaeologist and philologist specializing in Bronze Age Near Eastern, including Iranian archaeology. He got his PhD in 2011 at Sorbonne University in Paris, taught at the University of Tehran from 2015 to 2020, and then has been involved in archaeological fieldwork in Gerov area since 2006. Between 2018 and 2020, he led the decipherment of linear Elamite writing, an Iranian 3rd millennium BC script, and the most ancient phonetic writing system in the world. He's going to talk about a brief introduction to Iranian Plateau language and writing system for about an hour, which will leave us plenty of time for Q&A. I'd also like to advise that we will be recording today's presentation. So now I'd like to hand it over to you, Francois.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the occasion for me to talk to you. Let me share my screen. So can you see my PowerPoint? Sorry. Is it working? Okay. Maide, can you, sorry, just, can you look at my PowerPoint? Yeah? So today we are going to talk about a brief introduction to all the different languages and writing systems used on the Iranian plateau. I am going to try to do that in just 1 hour, 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's a bit short, but I will try to respect the time. And you will see that situation is quite complicated in Iran because it's one of the places in the world where writing was created. And for the last 5,000 years, a lot of different writing systems were used in this territory, and also a lot of different languages were spoken in Iran. So just before talking about this topic, if we look at the global history of the Iranian plateau, we can understand the history of Iran since the Neolithic period, so since the creation of the invention of agriculture and stock breeding in 2 big urbanization cycles. So the first one from the 10th millennium, when they started to stop being hunter-gatherers and being farmers, to the 2nd millennium BC, and the second one from the 2nd millennium BC until now. And I am specialized in the 3rd millennium BC, which is a very big and important historical period for the Iranian plateau, because at that time appeared the most ancient writing systems, the most ancient cities, and so on. Another point before starting is that we have because I've been talking about these topics for 3-4 years, and I realized that there are very frequently a lot of confusions between 2 different phenomena. Language. So language is a vocalic phenomenon. It's something going out from the mouth. Okay, it's immaterial. Right now, for example, I'm talking in English language to you. Here is the current distribution of the big linguistic families in the world. You can see with these green colors all the Indo-European languages spoken nowadays in the world. And you can see that in the American continent, they are speaking Indo-European languages such as English or Spanish because of the European colonization in this continent since the 16th century AD, or the same also in Australia, of course. If we the Indo-Iranian languages spoken from from Eastern Turkey to India, and of course Iran. So this was about languages. Now writing system. So writing systems, writing usually it's something created with your hand. It's something you are going to write on a piece of paper. Usually, I think that in Australia nowadays, you are speaking English language, but you are recording it with Latin alphabet. It is the Latin alphabet. I'm saying that because very frequently Iranian people, they are making a lot of confusion because they are calling that the English alphabet. No, it's not the English alphabet. This is the Latin alphabet created in Italy in the 6th century BC. So, for example, I have a small question, but I'm going to answer it, but just for you to know, what is the difference between these three different graphies? So on the first line, it's recorded with the linear Alamite writing, on the second one with the Arabic alphabet, and on the last one with the Latin alphabet. So in all these cases, I wrote actually the same phonetic linguistic information. Hi, ho, hi, you. And here I just would like to draw your attention on the fact that you can record the same language, which is the English language, with different writing systems. Okay, that's a very important point. Here I wrote the same sentence with the linear Alamite writing, the Arabic script, and the Latin script. And on the contrary, you can have the same writing system used to record different languages. So here in this case, the Latin alphabet recording 3 different languages, English, French, and Persian, for example. So it's just for you to understand that there is not a specific connection between a language and a writing system. Okay, so this being said, let's start our journey in all the languages and writing systems used on the Iranian plateau. When I was working on this PowerPoint, I realized that I could present it in 12 different steps. So it's going to be quite quite complicated, but there are going to be a lot of details and a lot of different stories. So I hope you will follow what I'm going to tell you. So look at this figure, step number 1. On the left, all the different languages attested on the Iranian plateau. On the right, all the different writing systems. We are going to try to follow a chronological order, of course, from the most ancient to the most recent languages and writing systems attested. You have the dating on the central column. And first, we are going to start with the precursor of writing, the numerical tablets. So numerical tablets, they are attested in this area in the Near East between 3,500 and 3,300 or 3,000 BC. So this is how it looks. So it's not only attested in the Iranian plateau, actually it's attested in Syria, Mesopotamia, and Iran. And what were they writing at that time? They were recording numbers on clay tablets. Here you have different, I added the different tablets from different sites from this area. And just to give you an example of a specific tablet, here is a tablet, and we can know what was the quantity recorded on this tablet. For example, in this case, they recorded 1,185 stuff. Which stuff we don't know, because they were just recording a numerical information. So actually that's the immediate precursor of writing, because after that, around 3300 BC, they are going to decide that they have to write what they were recording, and we are going to switch to the true writing system. So after that, step number 2, we have what we call the Proto-Elamite script or Proto-Elamite tablets. So as I was telling you, the numerical tablets, they are attested in this area. And then more or less around 3300 BC in southern Mesopotamia, southern Iraq, we have the Proto-Cuneiform writing, but in the red area, and in the blue area, we have the Proto-Elamite tablets. And as you can see, the Proto-Elamite tablets, they are attested on a very big area in the Iranian plateau, actually, from Khuzestan to Sistan, actually, in Iran. So these are the most ancient writing systems in the world, with the hieroglyphs, the first hieroglyphs in Egypt. So that's the birth of writing. So nowadays we have something like 1,650, 700 tablets attested in the Iranian plateau. They were found in 8 different sites. As you can see, most of them, they come from Susa, 1,564 tablets coming from Susa. So it's more than 90% of the corpus coming from this site. Why do we explain, how do we explain this situation? Because of the excavation led there by the French mission. They really excavated Susa on a huge scale since the late 19th century. And for this reason, they found a lot of stuff. It's not because Susa was more important than the other site. It's just because of the method of excavation. So and for this reason, as most of these tablets, they were found in Susa, most of them nowadays, they are held in the Louvre Museum in Paris, because most of the artifacts found in Susa, they were brought back to France. So here are some pictures of these Proto-Elamite tablets. Then I'm going to talk briefly about them, some details. So these Proto-Elamite tablets, first of all, we don't understand them yet completely. We know that they are dealing with numerical information, so they are bookkeeping or accounting documents. They are recording a quantity of stuff, usually wheat, barley, slaves, lands, animals, stuff like that. For example, in this case, on the left, you have the picture, on the right, you have the drawing. It's to be read from the top to the bottom, from the right to the left. And we know that they were recording 7 teams, 7 groups of probably slaves. And for example, in the first one, there were 94 people. On the second one, 69. On the third one, 147. On the fourth one, 44, and so on. So you have something like 7 teams. And on the back of the tablets, you have the total of these 17s, 591. So actually, we understand quite well the numerical information, the mathematical information, but we don't understand yet the green part, the introduction, and all the red section at the beginning of each of the entries, each entry. So let's move quite forward, because for now, actually, I'm trying to break the code of this document now, because I'm going to talk about that just after the Proto-Elamite tablet. As I could decipher the linear Elamite script, which is a more recent version of Proto-Elamite tablets, I think I can use my knowledge of the recent stage of this Iranian writing to go back to the most ancient stage. I cannot enter this in detail, because I have to talk about a lot of different writings and languages. But just for you to know that actually this is my next scientific target. Actually, I'm working on that now. And for you, I just wanted to tell you what I'm doing. I'm trying to read, actually, I think that I recorded a lot of anthroponyms, a lot of names, proper names of the people involved in these economic documents, in these accounting documents. And I think I can start reading the names of some people. And as most of them, they come from Susa, I think that they record the names of people living in Susa at the end of the 4th millennium BC. Well, just for it's to be read from the right to the left. It was written from the right to the left. Okay, so after the Proto-Elamite script, we have what is called Linear Elamite script. As you can see, it is dated between 2300 Wikipedia or any other stuff. It is said that Linear Elamite script is completely different from Proto-Elamite script. And here on the figure I'm showing you, you can see that I'm drawing dotted lines to show the idea of continuity. I think, the conclusion is, I think that Linear Elamite is just the recent version of Proto-Elamite, or Proto-Elamite is just the old version of Linear Elamite. And actually, I'm going to rename all this rating system early Proto-Iranian rating system for the Proto-Elamite script, or late Proto-Iranian rating for the Linear Elamite script. But these are just small details. We are in around 3000 BC. So around 2900, all the Proto-Elamite tablets, they disappear. They are not recorded anymore. And then we are witnessing the spread of cuneiform writing in the Near East. So first of all, from southern Mesopotamia in Syria, and then all the Syro-Mesopotamian area, and also, as you can see, around 2250 in Susa, in southwestern Iran. This area was conquered by the Mesopotamian rulers. They brought with them in this area, so in Khuzestan, the cuneiform writing. So cuneiform writing comes from Mesopotamia, and it was imported, brought to Iranian plateau in the late 3rd millennium BC. And more or less at that time is attested, so from 2300 to 1900 BC in the blue area is attested the Linear Elamite rating system I'm going to talk about, and in yellow, the Indus rating system. This, I'm showing you that just for you to understand that in the late 3rd millennium BC, situation is quite complicated in the Near East because you have 3 different contemporary rating systems. In red, cuneiform; in blue, Linear Elamite rating system; in yellow, the Indus rating system. But I'm not going to talk about the Indus rating system because it's too far from the topic. Linear rating system is attested in Susa, in Shahdad, and in Konar Sandal. So Konar Sandal is Jiroft in southeastern Iran, and also in the Mardash plain and in Camp Firuz area. So we are in Fars region in Iran. We have currently 43 Linear Elamite inscriptions, which is very few. So this is what it looks like. We have inscriptions on stone artifacts. Many of them, they're actually in the Louvre nowadays. We have inscriptions on clay documents and also on metallic vessels. And they played a very important role, actually, this inscription, because they allowed me to decipher this rating system. And also we have some seals with this rating system. So I published that with my co-authors last year. It's called The Decipherment of Linear Elamite Rating. I think that Maide gave you a small document where you can find the exact references of some of my papers. So if you want to know more about this decipherment, you can read the scientific article. Honestly, it's quite complicated, and there are some summaries for some vulgarization work if you want. Also, you can find that on internet. And I'm going to publish very soon the complete editions of the 43 linear, published at the end of the year. So just for you to understand very quickly how I could decipher the linear Lamite writing system is that linear Lamite writing was recording Elamite language. I'm going to talk in few slides about the Elamite language. And this Elamite language was also recorded in cuneiform writing. So the interesting point is that the same language, Elamite, was both recorded with cuneiform, for example, in this case, on the top, and with linear Elamite, in this case, on the back, on the bottom. And here, as you can see, this, for example, in cuneiform, mani, pi, sai, pi, uhurtu, kiri, piup, hutakna, and we have the same sentence also recorded in linear Lamite writing, and this digraphic situation, so the same language recorded with two writing systems, was the key to decipher the linear Lamite writing system. So, and in this case, it means the bronze mani. Mani, it means it's a name of an artifact for my people, maybe probably for my clergy, Kere people, may be made. It's a prayer said by the king for the god. And here we can compare that exactly to this, for example, where you have the same linguistic information, Bor Jemila de Teheran, but recorded with two different writing systems, the Arabic one and the Latin one. So that's exactly the same digraphic situation. So here I'm showing you an example of an inscription in linear Elamite script recording Elamite language. Here it is. As you can see, I can read it completely. Here is the transliteration. And what does it say? Puzo Sushinak, king of Awan, the son of Shimpishrook. In Sushinak, that's the name of the god of Susa, loves him. So the city, the area of Uposhan. So here you can see Lavliere. I don't understand this word yet. So I deciphered linear Elamite writing, but I am still facing problem to understand completely the Elamite language, because now we are facing not decipherment problem, but problems in the translation of Elamite language. So the city of Uposhan in Sushinak burnt, enslaved under him, and gave to the king, Puzo Sushinak. So that's a military campaign against a place in the Zagros, Uposhan. And then at the end, we understand that we have a curse formula, whoever rebels. And if you look at the text on the top, you can see that many signs, they are not very certain and sure because the inscription is not very well preserved. So I'm facing some difficulties to translate the end of the text. But as you can see, I understand very clearly who ordered the text, his titles, the filiation, and what's the topic of the inscription. It's to record a military event against Uposhan. So this was written around 2150 BC, more than 4,000 years ago. Linear Elamite writing was discovered for the first time in 1901 in Susa, and for more than 1 century, we were not reading it. So actually, that's a big breakthrough in world history and Iranian history, of course, and we are going to get a lot of new information. But actually, we already got them, and it's going to be published very soon about Iranian history. There is an interesting consequence of this decipherment is that we have a new vision of the evolution of writing in the world. Why? Because for me to explain you briefly, you have two big types of writing in the world. For example, in the world, logographic on one side, I'm going to explain you what it is, and phonographic or phonetic on the other side. If I'm asking you to write 1,000 euros, for example, so you can record it either on the left with numbers and a specific symbol to record 1,000 euros, or also it's on the left, or you can decide to record it phonetically with the Latin alphabet. Both of them, they are to be understood as 1,000 euros. But on the left, it is a logogrammatic notation because you are not recording the sound. You are recording the ID. If I was reading that in Persian, I would read it 1000 euro, for example, or in French, 1000 euros. But it's that's the ID which is recorded, while on the contrary, on the right, that's the sound of the words in English. So these are the two different big types of writing system in the world: logographic on the left. Before we were saying ideogrammatic, but now we are saying logographic, and phonographic. Okay, and usually most of the most ancient writing systems like cuneiform. So here in the Near East, we have the 4 most ancient writing systems in the world in the 3rd millennium BC. So hieroglyphs in cuneiform in Mesopotamia, linear Alamite in southern Iran, and the Indus writing in Pakistan and India. So I'm not talking about the Indus writing because it's not deciphered yet, so we don't have any information. But before the decipherment of linear Alamite, we had hieroglyphs and cuneiform, and we knew that they were working with mixed notation. They were using both logogrammatic and phonetic notations. And before the decipherment of linear Alamite writing system, I was thinking that linear Alamite also was working in the same way with both logogrammatic and phonogrammatic notations. But after the decipherment of linear Alamite, here are all the signs, deciphered linear Alamite signs. And as you can see, they are all phonetic. My point is, it is the most ancient pure phonetic writing system in the world. And that's a big revolution because we are something like 2300 BC. And before the decipherment of linear Alamite writing system, we were thinking that the most ancient pure phonetic writing systems in the world, they were just used more or less around 1500 BC. So more than 800 years before, after linear Alamite. So now we are realizing that in the Iranian plateau, they were following a very original path for writing system. And so that's exactly, that is an alpha syllabary. So with alphabetic signs and syllabic signs, you have 5 vowels, A, E, I, O, U, 12 consonants, H, K, L, M, N, P, R, S, Sh, T, W, Z. And you have to imagine the crossing of the 12 consonants and the 5 vowels in order to create 60 syllables. For example, ka, ke, ki, ko, ku. For example, if I wanted to write, for example, the name Maede, I will use the sign Ma, then the sign E, and then the sign T, because they were not making the distinction between D and T. So I could record, for example, the name Maede with 3 signs, Ma, E, T. So that's a very original, very simple, very precise writing system working with just 77 signs, 60 syllables, 12 consonants, and 5 vowels. Okay. Also, there is a 4 steps, the 4th steps. There is a very interesting phenomenon, which is called the geometric script. It is dated in the 2nd half of the 3rd millennium BC. So it was discovered quite recently in Jiroft area in 2006. And I'm showing you very quickly, so they come from excavation, actually. I don't know if you ever saw such a thing. That's a very interesting stuff, actually. Usually I'm showing you that because many people said that, so I was part of the team when they were discovered, and many people accused us of creating fake inscription, which is a very bad accusation, and actually that's completely wrong because they come actually from good and proper excavations. And I'm just going to show you some pictures of the excavations. So that's the trench where they were found. And here you can see that one of the tablets during the excavation. So that was in Jiroft in 2006. So here they are. So we just have 4 documents for now. And actually, on the back of some of the tablets in red, actually, we have linear Lamite text. So the writing system that I talked about just before. And in the green, we have this new writing system, which I call geometric, because as you can see, the signs, they are very geometric. And there is so I cannot read them. I did not decipher them. Okay, we need more text. But there is a very interesting phenomenon. For example, in these tablets, here you can see that it was probably written in Boustrophedon order. It means that in each line, you have to change the order of reading. And the first line on the top is to be read from the right to the left, and then from the left to the right, then from the right to the left, and so on and so on. And why do I say that? Because, for example, in blue, I'm showing you two big sign sequences, which are exactly repeating themselves. Actually, we have big repetitions in these tablets, which show us that they were read in Boustrophedon, actually. Okay. So unfortunately, we should find more of these documents in order to try to decipher them, actually. Okay, so now let's talk in yellow about Mesopotamian cuneiform writing, and in red, Elamite language. So as I told you, in red on the map, cuneiform writing started to be spread on the Iranian plateau at the late 3rd millennium BC. And then in the 2nd millennium BC, cuneiform writing system spread in all the Near East. And actually, I think that at that time, cuneiform writing system was a bit like Latin alphabet, that was the most important and writing system in this area at that time. And actually, it's because of the diffusion of cuneiform that very probably they decided in Iran not to use linear Lamite writing anymore. And they switched from linear Lamite to cuneiform writing to record the Elamite language. So this is how it looks like. I think you already saw such a thing before. So it was created in Mesopotamia at the end of the 4th millennium BC. You can record a lot of different languages with this writing system. For example, Sumerian or Akkadian languages in Mesopotamia, but also Elamite language in Iran. And here, once again, I'm using the example I previously showed you. So Elamite language, as I told you, was recorded both with linear Elamite writing and both with cuneiform writing. That's a digraphic situation. And that's a very specific language. It's a dead language. The last speaker of Elamite died more or less 1,000 years ago, around 1080. And it is an isolate language, which means that we cannot make any comparison with any other known past or present language, which means that we have a lot of difficulty to understand it. It is dead and it is an isolate language. Well, anyway, I'm not going to enter too many details about this language. But please be aware that it's not very well known, still not very well known nowadays. And it's completely different from the Iranian languages that we are going to talk about and from the Persian language, which is completely different, of course. Okay, let's move forward. And here, for example, I'm showing you an example recorded on a cuneiform text, okay, with the translation. Yeah, but I'm not going to enter the detail. That's, I think, too complicated, and we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately. So this Elamite language is attested in this area here in southern Iran, but I think that in the 3rd millennium BC, it was probably also spoken in the northern half of the Iranian plateau, and maybe also in why not in Central Asia, and in Pakistan, maybe. So as long as we don't have any deciphered documents for the area where I put interrogative dots, we don't know what was the exact area where this language was spoken at that time. But actually, we are sure it was spoken in southern Iran in 3rd millennium and 2nd millennium BC. So let's move forward and let's move to the 1st millennium BC. Here with the Old Persian cuneiform script, which is a specific development of cuneiform to record the Old Persian language. And it means that we are also going to speak about the Old Persian language on the left. And we are going to talk about the arrival of the Iranian languages on the Iranian plateau in the 1st millennium BC. So a few pictures of the Achaemenid Empire in the 6th and 5th century BC. So this is the Achaemenid Empire. Of course, a reconstruction of Persepolis in the 5th century BC with some Achaemenid bas-relief in Persepolis. And at that time, so they were using a specific cuneiform writing system. So that's not the typical cuneiform writing, that's a development, specific development created to record the Old Persian language. So this is how it looks like. And on the bottom, you can see all the different cuneiform signs attested with the different phonetic values attested to record Old Persian language with the Old Persian cuneiform script. For example, this is how the name Darius or Daryavahosh, the name of the king, was recorded, as you can see, Daryavahush, okay. And for example, here you have the phrase Shayathiach Shayathianam, which means Shahenshah, Shah-e-Shahan, kings of kings, king of kings, okay? And here you can understand very clearly that the relation of Old Persian to modern Persian language, it's a bit like the relation between Latin language and, for example, current languages like Italian language, that the immediate ancestor of the new Persian language. For example, the word for king in Persian, nowadays it is a Shah, and the word for king in the Achaemenid time in Old Persian was Shayathia. So that's the same word, but of course, which evolved in the last millennia. And this is how we present the Achaemenid Old Persian text with the transliteration on top, the transcription, which means that we are trying to guess what was the real pronunciation of the text. And here, for example, a translation in English. So Old Persian, it is not used anymore because it evolved in Middle Persian and then New Persian language. As you can see, it belongs to the Iranic languages. And this is another way to present that. Old Persian, Middle Persian, and the current Persian languages still spoken nowadays in Iran and all around Iran. So if we talk about the current situation for these Iranian languages, so they probably, we can say that in the late 2nd millennium, 1st millennium BC, Iranian-speaking people, Indo-Iranian-speaking people, they arrived from the north, and they arrived in this area. And actually, in Iran at that time, there was another language, Elamite language, which is dead nowadays. And this is so the current distribution of the Iranian languages in the world. So as you can see, Persian is just one of these Iranian languages. We have also the Kurdish in the western area, but also Tajik, for example, Tajik and Dari in Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Afghanistan. You can see it's shown in a yellow color. So it means that it's very similar to Persian language. And Pashto in Afghanistan and Baluch in Pakistan, they are very similar. They belong actually to the same linguistic family. And if we look in a broader scale, these Iranian languages, they belong to the bigger group of the Indo-Iranian languages attested from Eastern Turkey with Kurdish to India and Bangladesh with the Indian languages. So this is the big subgroup of Indo-Iranian languages, which belong, as I showed you at the beginning, to the big linguistic family group of the Indo-European languages. Just for you to have an example, but I know that there are probably many Iranian people in the audience, but for non-Iranian people, just for you to understand, for example, in Latin, the word for mother is mater. And the word for mother in Persian nowadays is modar. Modar, mater, mother. So here just an example for you to understand we belong to the same linguistic family, actually. Okay, so let's move forward in time. Let's talk about very briefly about Greek alphabet and Greek language, because as you know, the Achaemenid Empire fell because of the conquest of Alexander the Great, and he brought with him the Greek alphabet and the Greek language, which explain that during the Seleucid and Parthian period, so Seleucid is the 3rd century to the 2nd century BC. That's the heir of Alexander the Great. And the Parthian kings, actually, they were Iranian. That's an Iranian dynasty which succeeded to the Seleucid governors of this area. And actually, they were speaking in Parthian language, which is an Iranian language, but also they were called also Philelenoi, which means they loved the Greek culture. And actually, here on the bottom, I am showing you 2 Parthian coins, and as you can see, that they are recorded with the Greek alphabet in the Greek language, actually. So that's a very interesting phenomenon. And in these 2 coins, you can read, if some of you you understand a bit the Greek alphabet, you can read the word Basileos, which means in Greek king. Well, anyway, let's not talk too much about Greek alphabet and Greek language. Now let's talk about the evolution of Old Persian, which is Middle Persian language, Parthian language, as I told you, and they were both recorded with the Aramaic alphabet. So a few pictures about, for example, the Sassanid Empire from the 3rd century AD to the 7th century AD. So that's the end of the Middle Age and the beginning of the end of antiquity and beginning of Middle Age in Europe at that time. This is a picture of a big Sassanid city in southern Iran, in Firuzabad. We have also very nice bas-relief at that time in Iran. For example, the bas-relief of Shapur the Great, Shapur I in the 3rd century AD. Very nice also silverware. And to record their language, which was the evolution of Old Persian, it is called Middle Persian or Pahlavi. They were using a specific Aramaic alphabet. So Aramaic alphabet is an alphabet which was developed first to record a Semitic language, which is called Aramaic language. Here you can see the different Aramaic alphabets developed to record different languages. And so it is attested, this alphabet, between 800 BC and 600 AD. So for something like 1,400 years. Here is a specific Aramaic alphabet used to record the Parthian language, which is one of the Iranian languages. And this is here the Aramaic alphabet used to record Middle Persian or Pahlavi language. So few examples of Parthian language recorded with the Aramaic alphabet. So on shards, ceramic shards from Nisa in Turkmenistan nowadays. Here, Sassanid inscription. So in the Middle Persian language from Shapur I in the 3rd century AD, in Middle Persian language and Aramaic alphabet. Another Sassanid royal inscription, 4th century AD in Tarebostan, just nearby Kermanshah in western Iran. And actually, the Sassanid kings, they were recording very interesting inscriptions with 3 trilingual inscriptions, Middle Persian, Parthian, and Greek. Actually, they were writing inscription in these 3 different languages, which is a very interesting phenomenon, actually. So one of the inscription of Shapur I at Narshe Rajab, so it's just nearby Persepolis. And another one also in Narshe Rostam of Ardeshir I, the first king of the dynasty in the 3rd century AD. You can see also some part of this inscription recorded with a specific Greek alphabet. And we find also this specific Aramaic alphabet used to record the Middle Persian language, also on coins, the coins of the silver the Sassanid kings. And just for you to give you a brief insight in the Middle Persian language, so this is an inscription of the main priest at that time in the 3rd century AD, the Mobed Mobedan, the priest of the priest, which was responsible for establishing Zoroastrian religion as the state religion in the Sassanid Empire. His name was Kartir. And for all the Iranian people in the room, I think that if you read the Middle Persian transcription in the Latin alphabet on the left and the translation in English on the right, you can, of course, I think that most of you can understand at least half of the words, Middle Persian words actually used in Middle Persian language, because actually that is the immediate predecessor of the New Persian language. Okay, so let's move forward. Yes, let's talk about the Avestic alphabet recording the Avestic language. So it corresponds to a very specific religious phenomenon that I cannot talk about. This Avestic alphabet was created around 500 AD to record the Avestic language, which was used in a very specific religious book called the Avesta. And very probably before that, the Avesta was learned with memory for centuries. And so we don't know when they were created, these Avestic books, but it's very probably that they date back to the 1st millennium BC and maybe also to the 2nd millennium BC. So that's why on the left, I'm showing dotted lines. But they decided during the Sassanid period to develop a very specific alphabet, the Avestic alphabet, to record this language, because we think that they were starting to forget the very specific words of the hymns and prayers for Ahura Mazda. So this is how it looks like, this very specific Avestic alphabet used to record the Avestic language. And actually, it is a very interesting phenomenon. It is a 53 letters alphabet. Usually alphabets, they work with from 20 to 30 letters. It works with 53 letters, which is amazing. So it's very, very precise. It means to us that they wanted to record very precisely the sounds of the prayers, because we think that most of them, they were not understanding anymore what they were saying when they were pronouncing these prayers. But the important point was for them to pronounce them very precisely for the prayer to be effective, like a mantra, more or less. And this writing system actually is, so it was called Dendibiri in Middle Persian, which means the religious script, religion script. And it is a development actually of the Aramaic alphabet used to record the Middle Persian language. So that's a development of the Aramaic script, but we consider it as a very different writing system, because actually in the Aramaic script used to record the Middle Persian language, we just have 22 letters. And in this case, we have 53 letters. So that's a completely different writing system. And just for you, an example here. So the Avestic text in the middle, the transcription in Latin alphabet on the left, and the translation on the right. So, for example, of this religious document. And now let's talk about new Persian language, the language currently spoken in Iran, Arabic language, and we are going to talk about, of course, the Arabic script, the Arabic alphabet currently used in Iran. So a few words about the Arabic language. It belongs to another linguistic family, the Semitic linguistic family. So on the right, the slide, the picture on the right shows you the situation of the Semitic languages in the 1st century AD. And you can see that, for example, in red, Aramaic language, in blue, Hebrew. Hebrew is a Semitic language too. And in a white, green, this is Arabic language. So this is the cradle of Arabic in the Arabian Peninsula. And then from the Arabian Peninsula, because of course of the Islamic conquest of Northern Africa, it spread in all Northern Africa. That's the current distribution of the Arabic language in the world. But you can see also it's slightly spread in some very specific part of Iran nowadays, in southern Iran, and yes, southern and southwestern Iran. So it was about the Arabic language, and this Arabic language is recorded with a very specific Arabic script. And as you can see, the Arabic script nowadays is used in this area, and Iran belongs to this Arabic script sphere. But I want you to pay attention that in black, this is the area where they speak Arabic language, but it's smaller than the area where they use the Arabic script. My point is that the Arabic script is used, for example, in Iran, in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Central Asia. It is used to record other languages than the Arabic language. So be careful, all the non-readers of Arabic script. Whenever you are looking at an Arabic inscription, it does not mean necessarily that it records the Arabic language. Be careful, language and script, they are different phenomena. And of course, the Arabic script was brought to Iran because of the Islamic invasion of Iran and the fall of the Sassanid Empire in the 7th century AD. And since the 8th, 9th century AD, we are using in Iran this Arabic script, slightly modified in order to record other sounds from the Persian language. And for example, in the Safavid period, so we are in the 16th, 17th, 18th century AD, in Isfahan, for example, in the Mosque of Isfahan, we can read Arabic inscription and actually recording Arabic language. And here, and of course, in Iran, they developed very specific calligraphic style for this Arabic script. For example, the Nastahlir style, calligraphic style. Of course, usually Arabic script and Arabic language is very frequently and commonly associated to the to Islam and to Islamic religion, and of course to Quran. For example, here is a 900 AD Quran exemplars, a very famous one, the Blue Quran. But be careful, it's a very interesting phenomenon. Actually, the Arabic script was used before the birth of Islam. This is the most ancient Arabic script inscription known. It dates back to 512 AD. So more than 1 century before the beginning of Islamic expansion. And actually, it's a Christian inscription. Okay, so that's a very interesting phenomenon. The Arabic script was used before Muhammad and before the birth of Islam. And to finish, we have in the 1st millennium AD, there is a big phenomenon from 500 AD, a big phenomenon, which is the move of the Turkic-speaking people from Central Asia to the West, from the East to the West. And actually, the final expansion is current Turkey, actually. And it explained why in the northwestern part of Iran nowadays, they speak a Turkic-related language, which is called Azeri. And if we look now at the current distribution of the different languages in Iran nowadays, we can see that they speak different big linguistic families. So, of course, Indo-European languages and Iranian languages, for example, with Persian, with Kurdish, with Lori, Baluch, and so on. But also Semitic language with Arabic in southern and southwestern Iran, and also Turkic languages in northwestern Iran, and notably with Azeri. So we have a big, quite a big variety of different languages spoken in Iran, belonging at least to 3 different big linguistic families, which explains the diversity of the different Iranian population living. So here we are in the Low tribe, Turkish-speaking tribe in southwestern Iran, in Fars. Here in Baluchistan, in southeastern Iran. Here we are nearby the Bandar Abbas. And here with the Kurdish people, I took the picture in Tarebostan in Kermanshah. So which explain the high diversity of different Iranian people. And of course, very recently, you have the influence of European languages like Russian, French, or English, and the influence of the Latin alphabet. And if you look at the distribution of the rating system nowadays, so as I told you, Iran belongs to the sphere of use of the Arabic script, Arabic alphabet. But actually, if you look at, if you consider what I told you, all the different rating systems used in Iran, cuneiform, Greek alphabet, Aramaic alphabet, Arabic script, and so on, actually, they are all foreign script. They come from the West. They were not developed in Iran, except one, the first one. For example, cuneiform comes from Mesopotamia. Aramaic script, it comes from Syria, for example. And there is a very interesting phenomenon of these Western scripts which are spreading in the Iranian plateau, because nowadays I think that we are facing a very interesting phenomenon with the Finglish, what is called the Finglish phenomenon, which is actually that's a mistake to call it Finglish. We should call it Fin Latinish, because it's recording the Persian language, Farsi, with the Latin alphabet. For example, here, Finglish Nanevisim, and Nanevisim, you see that it means let's not write Finglish, and actually that's the Latin alphabet, and that's just the last step of this Western script influence on the Iranian plateau, which started with the spread of the cuneiform writing actually on the Iranian plateau. For example, this is another example of Finglish with both Arabic script and Latin script recording the same Persian inscription. And just also for you to know, for that the Persian language, for example, in other countries, in other Persian-speaking countries like Tajikistan, they're using Cyrillic alphabet to record the Persian language. For example, here it's recorded Man Farzandi Tajikistanam. Man, I'm a son, I'm a child of Tajikistan. So it's recorded with the Cyrillic alphabet. So here you see clearly that the Persian language can be recorded with Arabic script, Latin script, and also with Cyrillic script. So a clear distinction between the language, Persian language, and the rating systems. And well, that's the 12 and the last step. That's a pure and simple idea. But you know, when you consider all the different rating systems ever used in Iran, Mesopotamian, cuneiform script, Aramaic alphabet, Greek alphabet, Arabic alphabet, and so on, as I told you, they all come from other area. And the only writing system originally from the Iranian plateau, actually, that's the linear Alamite script. So why not? We could imagine that we could record the Persian language with the real, true Iranian language, with the true, real Iranian writing system, which is linear Alamite. And here I recorded for you Salam Halet Shetore from the right to the left in the linear Alamite writing, and here with the Latin transcription and with the Latin and the Arabic script, and it means in Persian, "Hi, how are you?" So maybe my idea is I would like to revive this very ancient writing system, which is one of the most ancient writing system in the world, and which comes actually from Iran. That's if there is a writing system which can be labeled Iranian, that from a geographic point of view, that's this one, because it's the only was created in this part of the world. So actually, I'm working on it in order to be the font that is now available. So I guess that maybe in 1 or 2 years, if you want, you will be able to send a SMS or to write emails with linear Alamite script, because it's going to be soon be part of the Unicode world system. So thanks for your attention. I hope it was not too complicated. If you want to follow and to read some of the stuff I explained you can find some of my papers on my academia page. Okay. I'm also I'm the president of an association funding archaeology in the in Iran nowadays, Ex-Oriente Lux. You can go and take a look on internet. And so I wanted to thank you for your attention. And if you have some question, I'm here to answer them.